the seashore.
She sells seashells down by the seashore. Sister Susie sells seashells down by the seashore.
Hello, darling.
Hello, honey.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Can't you look at me when you talk to me?
I'm looking at you.
But it doesn't look like that in the camera. It doesn't look at you look at
Oh, there's no syntax. Oh, I see.
But it looks like that eye from that monitor there is looking at you.
Oh, that's very nice. That's cute. Maybe I should kind of look at you.
Yes.
And talk to you. Hi, is that you?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, thank you. Fine.
Why don't you kiss my hand? That's a media couple, huh? Kind of disintegrated into... yeah, I wouldn't use it.
Vašulkas for me are two of the most important artists of the 20th century. And I consider that to be a new renaissance because both art and science in the beginning of the 20th century have redefined reality and how we represent it.
No, you did zoom it out, though.
Yeah, green A-L-U.
I really see Steiner's and Woody's work as important because it was in many ways ahead of its time. Not only were pioneers of video art exploring its early manifestations, but I think they already saw its relevance to what this work could be and the potential that it had and how it would relate to a future mediascape that we're inhabiting right now.
I didn't know this was going to be a masterpiece. Woo! Shit, how could we do this, Woody?
I don't know. I've never taken life seriously. I never insisted on kind of living. I was given that, and I never had a chance to waste it.
I've always felt that I saw the world differently. And when I was younger, I would say, why don't they see the world like I do? What's wrong with them? But now it's just something that's wrong with me. And that's good. Then I have my place on the planet.
I really don't know what to do in the morning, except what I do here. Because when you are younger, you know, suddenly you wake up in the morning and just work. But now here you have to make coffee and wait for something else. The house is just kind of alone. But now I'm just looking out of the window. What is the day, Steina?
Still a Wednesday.
There are here the most important hard drives, and they are all active, and they all meet in this computer. Maybe I would like to make my legacy, leave it behind. And you see, fortunately, I have this woman with me, Steina. She always really put me straight, you know.
Well, let me just see what I have. Yes. No, I need one of these guys.
Which one? Oh, the big one.
Yeah, this is what we have to do, you know, is all the tapes. They are well over 500. They are going to be digitized. This is half inch. And we have them half done and half not done. See, this is how early video looked like. It came on real like that, the tape like this, you know.
Tell you what we all are facing, because this is the only book that contains everything as far as hard drives. That means everything that we have recorded and put it into the hard drive format. That's all the legacy that we are leaving behind us.
Well, one thing is for sure, that humankind is much more interested in archived past art than whatever is happening now. Þetta er ég búin að vera að gera í mánuðum saman. Það var svo mikið af böndum sem að þurfti að hreinsa áður en ég get setta því digitization.
This is a great opportunity for me to talk to you tonight about the problems we all are involved and we all would like to solve for the future.
We have here. Oh, there are nice pictures here.
This is what you did with Alphonse.
Oh, yes, that's very interesting.
This is a unique picture of Woody the filmmaker.
This Amu, Damu, Famu, and Hamu. I spent the last maybe 3 years of my education, film education, right here. Prominent school now, historically speaking, we would write and we would produce 35mm films there. But of course, since Lenin said that the film was the most important medium for the political propaganda of the so-called communist future, it was lavishly sponsored.
I came there in the fall, September, I think, of '59, to Czechoslovakia to study violin. And I didn't know much about playing violin. I was not a good student or anything. And it was such a big deal. My parents were good bourgeois people, and they got so scared that they were gonna send their favorite daughter to Prague.
I just finished the school, and the film I ended with was just a documentary type, because I couldn't really face the actors. And so I just said, no, I'm not cut to do this, and I'm not gonna pursue this, and I have nothing to say to film, because film was glorious at that time.
There was a common dormitory, so I met a lot of the kids that were going to the film school. I met Woody in the dormitory. It looked a little bit like that place. This one.
Yeah. Okay, jsme in the right place.
We stood here, and Jindra, she introduced us to each other. And you gave me the hand like that. You remember that? You gave me the hand.
Yeah, it's just
And you
like
said,
tak vezmi si mě.
he said, marry me, get me out of here. And I said, yes. And were the first words we said to each other.
that was after I tried to fix your...
No, before.
No,
it was very nonchalant.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll marry you. Sure.
So this was the place. We came there. It's very small place, you know.
It was just a place where they did marriages. And it was very uninformal. They asked us if we wanted music, and we said yes. And I said, can you play a Mendelssohn Wedding March? What's that? They said. Can you play Wagner Wedding March? And they said, we don't know that. And then they played Czech music, and it was better.
Would you ring a bell, please?
I will ring a bell. Nazdar!
Teď se tě zeptám, kde to je. As a child, I used to play here. This was my playground. No? Tohle je my father's machinery. My father was a communist, and my father wanted me to be in the factory because he was in the factory. Unfortunately, that factory was making weapons. I was there, but I didn't work. And then I said to myself, no, of course, I don't want to go to a factory. I just want to be a free man. He had a downstairs in bottom of the house, a workshop, which I visited since age of 3.5 or whatever. And he never mind if I broke something like a drill bit. So he looked at me and said, oh, he's just learning as I did.
Stejná byla štíhlá Islanďanka, ty jsi byl trošku takový přitělý Čech.
This was my sister, and she was always older, and she had her own friends, see? She didn't care for me.
Very difficult to get through this iron curtain. We had to fill out an application, and one of the questions was, where do you intend to live? We said Iceland, because we were not stupid, we were not going to say USA. And that's what took them 18 months to think about, from the time we submitted application to get married. So it was clear, even before we put it into the application, we would never live in Iceland. It didn't serve any purpose, but they just decided that Woody was a traitor since he had left and took away his citizenship. And I left 2 days later, or 3 days after the wedding. I left for Iceland. There I immediately joined the symphony orchestra. They had a warm seat for me. And so I managed to play in the symphony orchestra from the beginning in January of '64 until the end of December '64. And I played an awful lot of chamber music because there were such good players and we were all the same age. And I left for the United States then, beginning of '65. And Woody had to still get his exam. it was very moonlandish for me.
We came here in '65, and so we were here 5 years before we sort of landed in the video.
And in the fall, we got a residency at International House.
What's made you tick? What's made you be here? What's made you find a reason to occupy your time? This is what we want.
Then we met Alphonse Schilling, and he said, you have to live in a loft. There are lofts all over this new thing that they call Soho. It was a virgin loft, had been a sweatshop before, and it was large and good, and cost 125. And they would say, "Are you crazy? Nobody pays over $100 for a loft. They took you for one." That was on 14th Street and Union Square, and I think we must have moved there either 67 or 68, somewhere in there, and it became a wild place. And at that time, the video was starting to come up. Andy Warhol had a Rover, so-called Rover, that was the portable camera that he bought in '68. Woody was working that summer of '69 with these kind of weird people who were mostly photographers or filmmakers. And he discovered video. It had to do with that they were going to make a exhibition, industrial exhibition, with something called General Can Company. Woody suggested they would do it in video because they were doing those multiple screens. And he said, you can just put one image on as many monitors as you can.
We are getting into another project, which is also, dealing with TV. Industrial shows is not a bag exactly. We want to get more socially, connected, to get more or less, into the other fields. So, and that's gonna dictate for us the future.
And that summer, there was an exhibition in Howard Weiss Gallery called TV as a Creative Medium. And that's where we met all of them, Nam June and Eric Siegel. And
why do you have the camera pointed in the lights? Pan it down.
Yeah, we all are speechless. We are tired.
I'm very tired.
We are very tired.
We walked in there and we found Namjoon on the floor fixing the TV bra. And I realized in retrospect that had a great influence.
My very first one was that I said I will put sound waves, because I had sound waves anyway, generated to the grid of video pictures, everybody.
Just directly into video and
Yeah,
and that's the first thing we did too.
Yeah, that's it.
But
then
many
they
years
said,
later.
Yeah, and they said, oh, you will get just lines. Engineers, it's not interesting, but let's do.
Yeah.
And how can you say that this is just stupid piece? You don't like it, that's all. But do we know him?
yes,
Yes?
we used to know him.
Who?
We used to know him.
So don't do it publicly so we can...
His name is Nam June Paik.
This is Nam June. Is he dead already?
Yeah.
Shit, that's you can say about him anything you want.
But his theory was we should hang on it and then sell it for a lot of money.
It's such
Because
a
it was
naive...
autographed. Huh?
It's such a naive piece.
Yeah.
And look, he puts the start and switch it at that. Started to shoot everything, like jazz.
We would do documentaries and lectures and all kind of other stuff. Sometimes even get money and so on and so forth.
Are you any more satisfied now?
Yeah, we're more satisfied now sexually.
But we knew that for the one there was an audience, for the other there wasn't. It was clear like that. I was still playing, and he comes from Fillmore East, where he had taped Jethro Tull. It was a wild group.
1, 2, 3.
We liked it very much, and there was a steady stream of people who wanted to see it.
We're gonna look at this.
Yeah, we had a nice loft, and the musicians from upstairs started to migrate down and got stoned. It was all fantastic. Hey, man.
Oh, yeah, hold it.
Look at this, and Miles Davis. We had collected very interesting features.
And they would always bring friends, and then people would call us and said, can we see what you shot the other night? And we didn't have any home anymore. We couldn't even go to bed because the house was full of people. They were definitely fun. It was just fabulous to socialize with what was going on. And it was so much partying and drinking and carrying on, and we just had a time of it, and it got better every year. 65 was the most kind of sober, 66 was getting there, and by 68 it was totally full-fledged.
I'd like to dedicate this one to such a draggy scene that's going on. All the soldiers that are fighting in Chicago and Milwaukee and New York. Oh yes, and all the soldiers fighting in Vietnam. I had to do a thing called Machine Gun. Hey, I think I'm
Jimi Hendrix was either on the last day of 69 or first day of 70. And that I always considered it as the day when I started video.
Happy New Year, first of all.
And we locked into this culture of video. And it was kind of culture. We didn't know what we were doing when it was happening, but in retrospect, it was very intense. And I assumed that everybody was fascinated by the signal, which for us was the magic, that you could make video out of audio signal or audio out of video signal, or take an external source and get them both to move the moving image. And that it was electronic, it was unique. And we assumed that everybody was involved in that, but in retrospect, nobody was except us.
You just move, not the object.
We had processing amplifiers and sync generator, and none of our colleagues did that. And this is actually why everybody concluded we were not artists, that we were the techies. We were mostly among the foreigners. We were mostly among the Czechs. And there was a lot of suspicion. We never knew who was a spy and who was not. And we had to sort of figure that everything out. And then came the onslaught after the Russians moved in to Czech of artists from Czechoslovakia.
There's some missing pictures. Where are they?
Oh.
Nudity all over the place.
You know, the Czechs are like Icelanders. They don't care if somebody sees them.
Stena.
Yeah.
What was this orgy here?
You're not gonna have, we have no right to show this to anybody.
No, but I don't know. I don't remember. Is it from the Canada?
Yeah. The Czechs are very loose with sex. I think they still are. So we were used to that. There was a competition who had the longest penis, or there was a revolution and dancing together naked and things like that. So we weren't totally aware of how puritanical it was still in America. Of course, we had to have parties where everybody took off their clothes.
Once I saw a beautiful scene.
What?
First, there was a girl sitting, I told you about it.
No.
She was sitting like that in the window. Beautiful girl, just across here. And then suddenly she stood up and she was as naked could be. So I was writing more and I was looking up sometimes, you know, spying just a little bit. And suddenly, here came this guy. Exactly as naked. I like that more, I tell you. And now I just sat in the window and I didn't stop looking. And what do you think I saw then?
No, I don't know.
Another naked guy.
Too much.
We befriended Alphonse. He had discovered 3D, and Woody had helped him to build some machines to take 3D. And he was that time taking portrait of people, and he needed subjects. So he found in the transvestite, he found first Jackie Curtis. And he comes to us and says, "You want to come to a party?" He took us there, and there was this beautiful party, and Jackie sang her song. Salvador Dali was there, and Mama Ellen Stewart of La Mama.
And since then, she's been writing plays, and her play, Heaven Grand in Amber Orbit, is currently playing at La Mama, with the Playhouse of the Ridiculous.
We came here to see Femme Fatale, which was written by Jackie Curtis.
I remember the night you told me goodbye.
Was the main star, and in it was also Patti Smith. She was totally new in New York exactly then.
This is a stick-up.
And we did our first theater production with Jackie, and they were one of 4 or 5 that we eventually ended up doing.
Welcome to the La Mama Art. Jackie was a playwright, and that was very important. And we could provide for that, you know, it's important.
This is both Jackie as a man and Jackie as a woman.
That means you too, sister.
Oh, Diana, goddess of the moon, tread lightly tonight, tread lightly tomorrow night. Diana, Diana, Diana.
The transvestites were always the most avant-garde of all avant-gardes. So that became kind of my playground. Woody didn't do much with them at all. I needed to train on camera. I needed to become a camera person.
Come to Lupe as Lupe Bivalist.
That's me, that's me.
Mala Femina. Stina is so fabulous. Because nothing was a Western civilization she knows from it. Don't freak her out. Like him.
They love to be in front of the camera. They love to be unusual and female in one scene and then male in another scene.
Is this my Achilles heel?
They were interviewed all the time because they did the films with Warhol, but they also did the plays here. You know, Candy and Jackie were part of not only La Mama, but also of The Factory, Andy Warhol. I think it was Vain Victory they were doing. And the show was supposed to start. And on the list for Vain Victory, there were many, many famous people. Andy Warhol, all these people, blah, 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 you know. And what would happen is if somebody showed up to see the show, Jackie in the middle of the show would go into the audience and bring them up and say, oh, here's Lou Reed, or here's so-and-so, and he's coming, you know. So suddenly he was part of the show. But in fact, he never was a part of the show. He was somebody that you pulled in.
We got sound on this thing.
Even Andy Warhol came once. They dragged him up to our loft. We were up on third floor. But we were neighbors because we were on the Union Square and he was on the Union Square.
This is Dana. Her husband did a tape of the record interview. 6 o'clock? To leave it at yeah.
And we found out that he spoke not Czech, but Ruthenian, which was very close. They play it up in the mountains of Slovakia. So we were able to talk to him on that language.
But then I once rode with him up the elevator. He was flirting with me. We were flirting with each other. And I had this stinging eyes. And I understood why everybody was kind of in love with him, both the men and the women. And the men knew he was homosexual, and the women were sure he was a secret heterosexual. It was kind of funny. It was very sexy, yeah. Now, it was very much in the air. It was impossible to not be involved. Like, say, the first Earth Day ever happened right outside our window because it was on Union Square. So we had never heard of any Earth Day or that the Earth needed a day or any of that. But of course we went out there to tape it. That was a part of being in New York.
The last 4 years, genocide that's being practiced on the Black Panther Party because we're a revolutionary party that's trying to bring to the people the idea of what's behind all this degenerated housing and no jobs.
We didn't know that the blacks were such an underclass. We had never encountered it, and we thought that they were just fighting their war. And also the transvestites or homosexuals. We were not involved in the politics. We came out of communism, and the Black Panthers, they adored communism. So we were not going to be anywhere close to that.
I had a good feeling today. I enjoyed.
Eldridge, Cleaver, and that organization, he was at that time in Africa, just took all the names that he found in radical software because he understood the power of the medium. So we just got a letter like anybody else, and we didn't take it seriously either. But we got an FBI agent to visit us shortly after we got the letter. Now, he definitely was there because we had showed up on some list of dangerous people. We figured out when he was leaving that he had to have been sent by FBI to find out who we were. Yeah, we were contacted by, wasn't really the political people, but pornographers, because that was something that was strictly forbidden, and it was coming up. It was sort of leaking out on the environment. There were people who were dying to do pornography, and videos seemed to be so just for that. So they contacted us and hired Woody. I wasn't involved in shooting, to shoot the scenes, and they were shot in something called Blue Dome. And Woody came home with 3 hours of such boring stuff of people just showing their genitals. And sure enough, they never came. They didn't even want to look at what Woody had shot. And we didn't get any money. But out of that came then the Sex Machine tape.
Get up, get on up, get up, get on up, stay on the scene, get on up, like a sex machine, get on up.
Oh, and another tape called Adagio.
This tape is called The Evolution, and this is feedback, and the sound was then generated from the image.
It was the first time when I attempted to make a composition in 3 parts, kind of a triptych, again, slipping back into the narrative structures. And that particular piece contains these most kind of important components to me, which was sound, image exchange, image, sound, control, and the retiming, means the horizontal drift.
Það var merkileg maskína á sínum tíma, mjög merkileg. Og þetta hérna, það fara tengingar hérna á milli. Og það var í þessu svona hlutur eins og það sem við kallum soft keer, sem var óskaplega merkilegt. Og við uppgötvuðum þetta tímann.
I was freelancing as a violinist in New York when Woody started bringing home those toys from the place where he worked. Violin power is kind of an organic system, you know. You draw a bow on the string and you get a sine wave. But once you are in the digital realm, you have to define the frequency, you have to define the tone, and it is all very restricted. And the playfulness doesn't come until you have written your score.
I had a violin, MIDI violin with 5 strings, so 5 different channels of MIDI information. So one can control speed, another can control assignments of films, and then assignments of clip inside the film, and so on and so forth.
We got so many people visiting us home that we had no privacy left. So we were already wondering about if we could find any place. And there was no place, there was no video theater. There were a couple, but they were dedicated to their kind of work. They weren't open to other artists coming in.
I think I'm going in there.
Yes, that's where I'm going.
Hi.
Building a media theater, which we call, it's in Old Kitchen in a Mercer Playhouse. It's called Mercer Media or The Kitchen. It's 240 Mercer Street. And we are building a theater, media theater, when we We have already shown some videotapes and video images.
Stena and Woody Vašulka created the kitchen in 1971. They created it as a place for video, but very shortly it became, as they called it, a home for the homeless, which meant artists across disciplines.
We would gather a lot of monitors, and I think we did the first thing like that already in 1970, at the end of the year.
Hello, I'm Tim Griffin, director here now. Such a pleasure and an honor.
I'm Stena. I was once director.
I know. You are the original.
Who collected this? Did you?
You know, I have some more archival materials here.
Yeah.
The first show in Max Kansas City Steakhouse upstairs with Mickey Raskin. That's how we get these monitors from him.
And when we showed in Max's Kansas City, upstairs, and people would come, and they would come in gladly, and quite a lot of them, not only tiny little audiences, and tons of marijuana, and they would all sit on the floor and be so stoned they couldn't care less what they were seeing.
How did you end up in the location on Mercer Street?
That was the third party we had. It was Stena, Woody, and Andy Manick. And he just said, there is a space there, come and just look at it. So we came and looked at it. Wow, we want this space. There was no question after we saw this space.
And got some money from
State Council,
New
York.
And plump it in, and we ran this basically with the rent prepaid. So we didn't really have to care for daily operations. And that saved basically our day-by-day performing.
And we always had the idea with the kitchen that we would share it. We wouldn't be able to fill it out anyhow, just by our stuffs.
We never invited anybody to perform them. We never asked anybody to do anything there. People came to us.
So when the kitchen was opened, it filled a gap, an enormous gap. And we had different events every day of the week. We actually decided that we didn't want to run it. We never wanted to run it. And we didn't run it because everybody who was running it, and they were all volunteers and hangers-on, as you would say, we just had kind of this fun of meeting everybody and being in the heart of New York and everything.
Here right now, the whole area is roped off. There are close to 100 firemen on the scene, dozens of police.
We had moved out a month before. The other theaters, they collapsed with everything. The building collapsed on an empty space that used to be the kitchen. Then it moved to the west side. They were mostly, it were very good people who took it over, and it was good. And then eventually they had to have a board of directors, and it was all good.
The kitchen survived partly because the base of it really came to be how it was a hub for artists of all stripes. Beginning a lot with music, Rhys Chatham, going into electronic music, but soon involving the likes of Philip Glass, Laurie Anderson.
It was a very pioneering moment. You worked on a lot of other people's work.
So you better get ready, ready to go.
People would really help each other. That's what I love about the kitchen.
Talking Heads had their first concert here. Beastie Boys had one of their first concerts here. Fab Five Freddy. Cindy Sherman first showed her film stills in New York, in this location. Robert Mapplethorpe's first exhibition anywhere institutionally took place at the kitchen. The Mapplethorpe show was here because no one else would show it, and that's a tradition that maybe we keep. Raina, Steiner, Raina?
I don't know.
Next gen, first gen. And that legacy begun by the Vašulkas, and which has continued, over the decades, is palpable in this space.
New York needs this kind of place, and things that are necessary survive.
Stena, do you know the 50th anniversary is coming up?
Wow, am I really that old?
If you're interested in, and if you believe in electronic music and composition, this is the place.
And we were out of it, and it only lasted a few years. We were still in Buffalo when everybody had forgotten us. And we were happy for that because we didn't want them to remember us. It was a different New York then, wasn't it?
It's a different New York. Yeah.
Okay, go in. Right. Okay, I will stop it down on 5 point. That's 5.8.
The time of the beginning, which is our relocation from New York to Buffalo, was strange, of course, but planned coincidence, not by us, but by Jerry O'Grady, the conceptualist.
He was spying on us, and he liked what he saw and gave us an offer of coming to Buffalo. And of course we said no. And then we said no again, and no several times. And he was persistent, so eventually we got to Buffalo.
Is there any, did you detect there is any different policy in your thinking about a frame?
So he got us one by one on various search and survey abilities of his, and he assembled kind of a, we would call it a unique group, because somehow we were all in transitory position from all the media we knew before.
But neither of us has any inclination for professorship or interest. So we kind of said, okay, we will be professors. And we found a gorgeous loft.
That might be very interesting, all right. That could be another one, especially if you expose the camera like that. This is so cute, you know, and then go around like that. You know, you would start from far away, and you actually would see the whole camera in this state, you know.
Buffalo was very good because it had all kind of artistry. It was good, and we liked it there. And we met everybody, more so even than in New York.
Oh yeah, I make my tapes in Iceland. I'm from there. I'm born there.
You're one of them.
I'm one of them. I am born there. I grew up there until I was 17. And I go there for vacation. And when I go there for vacation to see my family, I also go picture gathering. Shall I show the pictures I gathered there?
Indeed, indeed.
Now I go there with a portable camera. I went to this spot and I dropped acid. So when I saw this landscape, it was very magical. And then I came back a day later with my portable camera and I taped it. And the tape didn't show what I thought I had seen there. But then when I worked with it home, I felt I brought back some of this halogenic qualities that I had experienced there. And it has sound too.
And then we had this teaching, and we had quite brilliant students, and quite a few of them.
It's really not random. You see, it's a little bit ill. Okay.
Especially one who built a whole device for us, and is still a very good friend.
And in the summer of 1978, we decided to build a digital image tool. Jeffy took the challenge to design such a tool, which took 18 months from its inception to where it is now. Some 20,000 connections were wired by Woody, and the device expanded from the planned 4 boards to 8. And this is the device. If just one bit of information is used, we get only 2 densities, on and off. 2 bits give us 4 slices, 3 bits 8, and 4 16 densities.
And it turns out that when you mix arithmetic and logical, Boolean logical functions, the patterns become more interesting than just logical and arithmetic alone.
We have connected this video signal with a sound synthesizer, which is right here.
Video was very difficult and very challenging in the beginning, and we just needed each other.
By interacting or changing the video level here, we can induce a modulation of this sound synthesizer, and then we can, of course, change the pitch.
And it was very often a collaboration was rather that Woody set up something and then he would walk away and I would go and play with it. So we are very, very different in the way we approach the material.
And in that sense, it's like a very, very primitive electronic organism. It can live on its own and it can stay alive as long as we don't cut the electricity.
Yeah, you are visible there in the frame also, but that's okay.
And we were all innovative in our ways. I mean, there was a rush. So a lot of people thought that they were going to save the world, or at least challenge commercial television. And then they would look at our stuff and they would say, but you are just playing. And I always thought that that was a great compliment.
What I think.
Why don't you scan me, Stena? Scan me and
Yeah,
he's going to shoot.
But I was just trying to get it focused.
So first of all, let me get you up.
It is softer.
Woody, this was a beauty. You didn't even notice what I was doing, huh?
No, what was doing?
I lighted the cigarette.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, but then I threw the smoke, and instead of having it finish, you know, you started chuk, chuk, chuk,
Okay, do it again.
And then when people said, but are you going to show it? Surely show it. And we showed up somewhere with monitors and we showed it.
So we should try this lens here.
Okay, please, just put it on.
So we had a very good time, but the snow was unbearable. So when Woody got a Guggenheim grant, we just said, let's go to Santa Fe.
So this is room number 1 in here, full of junk, of course. So this is our window outside. This is our yard. What are you cooking, love?
Dumb question.
Cauliflower?
Making salad, honey, salad.
For us, after this, Buffalo was the sun, that you have over 300 days of sunlight a year. It's unbelievable luxury. And then there were this landscape that made me into a landscape artist.
It's such a cliche to move to the Southwest and become a landscape artist. It was just too much. But of course I got seduced like anybody else. There was a solution, and the solution for me was to take just a part of it, take the texture, take some details, and farm them out on multiple images.
That we are just Vašulkas, but we don't do even things similar to each other. So we are very, very different in the way we approach the material. This idea that I be Stena is much more to do with that I'm Icelandic. I just looked always at its name, Vašulka, a perfectly nice name. And I said, I have nothing to do with his name.
It feels like I'm right into it, right? Like it's bringing me in there. And is that the sort of effect in which you're trying to grasp there? The effect of death?
Well, this is an installation that I did of all vision. If you look at the thing here, theoretically each camera should take 180 degrees, and together they should become 360 degrees. It's a total surveillance. Okay?
Stop it.
It is fabulous.
Yeah, it's absolutely fabulous.
But of course you should sit up on
I
top
know.
of this.
Yeah, but do you think you found this place or I found this place?
Out of memory was to separate sort of a dramatic space by certain physicality of a syntax, of a barrier. But then I failed in constructing that barrier properly. It became like an edit, cut between the scenes, but it wasn't meant that way. It was meant to have a third element in between, like a solid, dramatic syntax. And that means I only went halfway through my personal assignment. But again, it was more or less personal work because it incorporates the only time I've ever looked back at history and my kind of direct life during the war, because some of the footage I recall still remember as seeing in the movie house during the Nazi era. But it was also very disturbing because the first time I realized how the century, how bloody this century was. And I was also trying to find some responsibility in that, and who carries that responsibility. And I found it beyond the human sort of dimension.
It's totally miraculous that we could stay out of employment all those years. Woody was employed at the Buffalo University for 6 years, hated it, knew that he had to get out of there. We just have always managed, and we apply for this and that, and for some reason we would go down and we could go into debt, and then we would make it out of the debt. And we got fellowships, and we've just been enormously lucky in that sense. But that's over, and we knew it was over, and we were facing old age with Social Security. I've always had it in our minds that this house would be worth something. So we started looking into this legendary reverse mortgage. It happened, I think, twice or maybe 3 times, different banks. And they would come in and they would say, there are no walk-in closets. You sell houses because there's a walk-in closet there. Then there was the bathroom. Whoever bought this house would have to totally demolish this bathroom and build it nicely and hopefully get a whirlpool in there. So I was disqualified. I'll look into it, but we are so far out of it now. We just sit in front of the computer those days. We don't do anything. But we were being shown less and less, and finally it basically stopped.
Focus on the important stuff.
Yeah, right. Like good. Dying. Dying is a very important stuff. It's a project that very few people dare tackle, you know.
That was just Dana. Be well, and I'll get you down the road somewhere.
Excellent. I had to decide that, like a project, everything was a project. So that project was to die $1 million in debt. And there was nothing anybody could do about it. It was just, you know, we were just dead, both of us. And there were $1 million owed to various banks. And I would always use one card to pay for the next card, and then another card to pay for that card, and so on, juggling. And I slowly then paid them all up, so I was kind of good that way, but it was just zero money in the bank.
Doris is going to give you an interview.
Oh, Doris, you're giving me an interview. That wasn't meant
You
that way.
have changed the roles.
Okay, I'd love that.
Panic! That's gonna be fun! Say it backwards.
Doris herself, she said, what do you call this piece? And I said, Lilith. And she didn't know Lilith, although she was Jewish, she didn't know the legend of Lilith. So then she calls me back when she had, because she was a dictionary freak, you know, says, you are a witch. And I said, no, 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 Doris, I'm not a witch. You are a witch.
So this was like a second home for me, and I would go and get what I could, but then by now it's so much that one kind of loses this kind of a control over this life. Hey, do you want something like that? But anyway, so this was my foraging area. I would just recall the late 60s were in New York City, and the great resource for the generation of artists working with technology at that time was Canal Street. And Canal Street was this junkyard of technological junkyard of New York City. See, this is a beautiful turntable. It's a radar.
There is surplus, and especially the military surplus, which is very generous because military has large budgets, and when they are through with a project, they throw it out. It's like another grant.
Look at this. It's the same thing we had home, but I can have it for 10. Yeah. And then you put it just on a table and you look at your 3D images. Okay. There are 6 or some installations called the Brotherhood. They always are of some of the stuff that he got from of these surpluses that he has collected over a long period of time. And they all take space.
Can I go straight?
What's happening here, Woody?
Maybe I could start from here. This is on air. Well, I like the sound. Okay, so let's see what the sound sound.
It's interesting about Woody, he had no problem in explaining, but in his explanation was also a lack of vocabulary. And he just started making sentences, and that's how it started. And I realized that this thing called speaking in tongues was a known phenomenon.
Speech into ungending lending halabaka. Didn't lick it. That's what it is.
Hæ. Kom sæl. Hvar eru þið?
Við erum í rýminu. Sérðu.
Almáttugur minn. Óskupir, er þetta eitthvað bourgeois hjá ykkur? Já, frozen.
Hei.
Já, välkommen. Christine Skeving is the lady who found me. She was studying in Strasbourg. Was getting very bored there, and she wanted to see something, and she knew that Zetkaim was just across.
And then I walked into Borealis, Steina's Borealis. And I didn't know Steina, and I didn't know anything about it. But I sat there probably, I don't know, in my mind I was there for a whole hour, and I felt so homesick. And it's beautiful water, and I was like, this is just Iceland for me. And then I started to read about this lady, and I was like, Steina, Brian Bjarnadóttir, and I was like, she's Icelandic. This must have been filmed in Iceland. So I connected totally. And I started to write to Steina. Student, like a young, I don't know, 22-year-old. And she answered me, which is so sweet and beautiful.
Now this is the optical device. It screws on to the lens. And now that I take it off, you see it is just a glass tube with a half-sphere mirror in it.
How did you get this picture?
Oh, this picture was a complete by accident. You see, I came here and pushed this button, you know. But
don't push it.
And then there was a man like me. This would be good to record it, and anybody who comes when I'm dead, and I would make it that they talk to the person. Oh, you came here, and then, I mean, I know who you are, but I just didn't know at all, but, because I'll be dead. And then
I would go and take a shower.
I'm an enigma to myself, you know. I look at some, because I have these two versions. One is me, and now on to looking at this guy. And am I real or not? Am I myself or just pretending? Ow! Are you crazy? Go! Go! Stay down! It's too hard. You have to do it. Jesus Christ, I'm naked and stupid.
You have to go to the eye doctor.
I don't. Eye doctor?
Right now.
Why?
Right now. It won't take long. Yeah, you are great.
Can I be just like that, yeah?
Yeah.
Heavy, because I need to... No, I need my eyes, my goodness.
So go and get them. That's amazing.
You can even go.
Woody.
What's happened?
He had something better to do. What was the hurry? Oh my God. Yes, he made it.
Woody, the thing was,
yeah.
But in order to open the door with the tape, we talked about the tanks. So they sent me that saying, yes, that we want to do a show, that doing a show with Woody and Steina is a priority.
Okay.
Okay.
They really said that?
And they also confirmed.
They're all lying the same way, you know.
That they will come to Le Frenois while we're there to work with us on the show. And they have their own ideas of what they want to do too. It's not just what we propose. They want to discuss all this.
This is, of course, always the problem with those curators. They have their own ideas.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can start right now because we have so much material.
I met them virtually through Jerry O'Grady at Media Study Buffalo, and we talked, and he said, you've got to get in touch with the Vašulkas. So that's what I did, because I was going to Paris the same year they were creating the kitchen. So all the tape that I showed in Paris through all those years, I got from Stena. But it took me a while to get the work itself, because I was used to looking at experimental film and video as a thing in itself, you know, without really taking into consideration the whole process that produced it. And what the Vašulkas do is make you think of the process. And by making you focus on the process, they're actually making you look at the whole communication system and the implications of the communication system. And I think that's why they're so important. Because they were actually investigating, as Woody said many times, the artistic potential of the tools and inventing tools when they needed to. And that was extremely important, because that was an introduction to a whole new way of communicating that's become very dominant in our society.
I'll get back in touch with you when I get back from London then.
Okay, and bringing good news, but not too much work and no money, you know. So
there's no work until money comes in. Don't worry about it. There's nothing to prepare.
Okay, bye-bye, Don.
Okay. I mean, she doesn't know I have to beg for money from Stena. She really doesn't know that. She thinks I'm a boss.
Hermengina Kristínar.
Nei, það er mingi. Nei, ekki. Þetta er 47. Ég var handleggsbrotin.
Góðan daginn. Þetta viljayfirlýsing og samstarfi.
Systur, ég að spyrja ykkur spurningar. Ekki betra að kalla þetta Vašulka stofuna?
Já, það var með greini.
Já. Finnst þér ekki? Jú. Hanna, hvað finnst þér?
Mér finnst þetta bara ekki að heita neitt Vašulka. Og íslensku listamaður sem heitir Steina og svo einhver maður sem Guð veit hvaðan úr Evrópu.
Hvaðan kemur og hvaðan vill.
Hann er íslensku líka. Já, og þetta hann verður í safninu.
Já, ég meina það. Það er hans verkur þarna líka.
Já, þau verður bæði.
En sko, það er verið að setja safnið í stafrænt af háskólanum í Boulder. Slowly the word was leaking out that we had enormous archives. And we had the archives of the early video, which is now seen as historical and important. Our dear colleague, Stan Brakhage, dies, and all his collection is going to the Boulder archives. So there is a suggestion from the Boulder people that they ought to have not only Stan, but other people.
The aesthetics of video influencing your own work. Let's try that.
Well, it influenced my own ego in a very subtle manner. Like,
We were just, in retrospect now, I realize we were just there in alternative reality, you know, up on 3rd floor. And one day there in the evening, when Woody came home from work, you know, honey, I'm home. And I was the Hausfrau, supposed to have the hot meal. I said, I have a hot tape for you. You made another one this afternoon. And in a very short time, Woody said, I can't stand this. I quit work. And so now we were there, both of us, happy in our little cocoon and no in common. That's how it has been since, you know. Sound louder. But the Vašulkas are winners because we got our tapes transferred.
Grandparents of video art.
I don't know how they decided to have a Vašulkastofa. I'm not in on that story. I just knew it was suddenly there, and we were invited like everybody else. And all our friends were showing up because Kristín had gotten some money and invited everybody to fly to Iceland.
Nú segi ég Vašulkastofu opnaða og afmælisveislu, 130 ára afmælisveislu Listasafns Íslands setta.
And there was a big, beautiful exhibition there.
Is that Buffalo, that picture?
Yeah, this is Buffalo.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
I recognized it.
Yeah.
Young.
Happy couple. They were still having sex, you know.
Kristín says everybody wants to get big prints, and I cannot handle this anymore. I'm not a salesperson. I cannot deal with that. We have to find a dealer. So we went to see a dealer, and it was just a dealer. Nice people, but they were into dealing and into hanging pictures on walls and everything. We walk out of there, and she said, there is a lady gonna come here, and she wants to be your dealer. And I said, God, spare me from this. And she walks in.
Og einhvern veginn þegar hún vissi það að ég væri listamaður og hefði unnið sem listamaður í áratugi, það held ég að hérna hafi breytt málinu. Það kom eitthvað traust. Kannski bara þetta. Það erum við svona smá breytt.
And that her husband is a pianist who plays every day. And that was the moment I knew these were the people. But I let her talk for 15 more minutes trying to tell me, and she was trying to push this idea that she could be our dealer.
Ég var bara örugglega svona á mínum fyrstu árum í myndlistu handíðaskólanum þegar ég heyrði fyrst af Steinu og Údi og hérna var náttúrulega svona dálítið mikill ævintýra ljómi og blær yfir þeim.
And I knew it right away, they should be our dealer. So since then, we have financially been okay, more than okay. And they are great people, and we are connected to Iceland, and it is one of these happy endings, you know.
Put it in.
Ég bara gera grín.
This one I like. It's a beautiful one.
Yeah, I know.
Very interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
And this one too.
Slides are actually artifacts of early masks of electronic circuits, which I found as anthropologist in Los Alamos junkyard. And they are very precisely manufactured, and they represent first level of integrated circuits.
This is a war material, you know, actually. And then I put it into a bucket, took it home, and by error, I left it outside. And that was cooked for a year in the sun. And that sun is pretty good in Santa Fe.
That was the beginning of Woody's printing career. So that was how we came to be invited to Frenoir.
This is a sketch I have maybe several thousands of course, pictures like that, or maybe even more. Some of them I lost, you know, because my life was long enough, you know. Now these pictures, they are television frames, and each of these pictures is made out of 525 lines that you can bend as if it would be a piece of material.
On the Vašulka effect, but this is an effect of the time. That's why I think this is a historical artist, because they have made something that we can't find today.
This is like a sculpture. Yes.
Yeah.
And the size, it's okay with this.
Oh yeah, I think it's nice.
You happy?
Of course, I've seen it before, you know.
Yes.
But as big like that, I've not seen, except projected. But no, this is like
with this quality.
Has its own identity. So thank you very much, sir.
You have Steina and Muri coming here.
For instance, even just at the Loop Festival, you can see so many of the stories that are being told by younger artists and by, you know, kind of pioneer artists that they all root back to the Vašulkas in some way. Whether it has to do with image processing or with things like the kitchen that were promoting the earliest, you know, exhibitions. So many people have these stories that go right back to the Vašulkas. In a sense, they're the generators, maybe even the shoulders that, you know, most of video art has stood upon and grown from.
Art world never cared for us, and that was our luck, I think, because they swayed a lot of people into making art. And since we weren't artists, we could do whatever we goddamn wanted, you know. So we were always on the outside. Can you believe this?
Yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty good.
We never had it so good. It's beautiful.
Wow, wow, wow. And this place is actually very beautiful. Wow.
So in Iceland you have a chamber, and here we have a kitchen. Here.
I'm so glad to come here.
That they've created infrastructures and platforms for people to be able to come together, and I think that's really one of the driving principles behind founding the Vašulka Kitchen, is not so much looking at it as a legacy project, but looking at it as a way to really be inspired by their work and move forward.
And there will be, of course, videos from archive, and there will be archive from kitchen, because Steina has a similar chamber which inspired us on Iceland in Reykjavik. So we decided naturally to make the similar center in Woody's hometown.
Just key.
I think the youngest generation of artists are really admiring their work, and it is iconic, so I think it's important.
I should have more respect. The man is now a certified artist. Yes.
Að loksins núna, það orðið nógu langt síðan að vídeóið kemur fram. Það komið þessi fjarlægð, það komið þetta perspektíf, þetta sjónarhort sem þarf til þess að skrá söguna, og þess vegna held ég að þetta er tíminn. Það er líka í þessu samhengi sem að þau eru einhvern veginn eins og endur uppgötast, og það er ekki bara í Íslandi, það er bara alls staðar.
Það er ekki grænt, það er orðið rautt.
morning. The British Museum.
Ja, dan kommer det hit. Väldigt cool. I just found that Whitney had bought my installation for a lot of money, but I didn't even pay attention to it, so I didn't know they had this installation. And they said they owned it, and I said, they owned it? And they even showed me a paper that I had signed, and it was quite a bit of money. They never showed it. And now they're going to show it because we are showing up in the art magazines. And they say, hey, we have a Vašulka. Not that they knew what the hell it was, you know. Hérna eru hestarnir mínir.
And Christian Hall.
Nice to meet you.
We met a long time ago.
We did.
We're all the head honchos.
Yeah, we are.
I'm not the head honcho.
The work still feels very fresh, you know, because now through digital technologies we see many of these effects or kind of manipulations of image spaces that Steinar explored at a much earlier time through more analog technologies.